Right now, you're probably fine with the lights on, but picture this instead. Your bedroom, 3 in the morning, power's out. No phone light, no hallway glow, just black. And suddenly you're not walking to the bathroom anymore. You're listening. You're scanning corners you can't even see. Your heart rate ticks up for absolutely no reason because nothing has actually happened. That flinch, that specific, useless feeling fear of the dark, it's one of the oldest fears humans carry. Older than cities, older than farming, older than language itself, probably. So the question is, why did evolution wire us to be afraid of literally nothing? Let's go back to the beginning. Not human beginning, mammal beginning. Around 66 million years ago, after the asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs, the mammals that survived weren't the big, bold ones. They were the small ones, the ones that hid. And a lot of paleontologists believe those early mammals were nocturnal, scurrying around at night, specifically because that's when the remaining predators couldn't see well either. Here's the twist, though. Being active at night doesn't mean you're not afraid of it. If anything, night is when danger is hardest to detect. You can't see the thing that's about to eat you. You can only hear it or smell it or feel it a half-second too late. So even nocturnal animals evolved sharp, startle reflexes, fast, reflexive fear responses to sudden sound or movement in low light. That base wiring, fear the unseen, didn't disappear when mammals evolved into primates. It got inherited, passed down generation after generation into us. Fast forward a few million years. Early hominins are walking upright on the African savanna, and now they've got a new problem. They're not the top predator anymore. Lions, leopards, hyenas, a lot of these animals hunt at dusk and at night specifically because that's when their prey can't see them coming. Anthropologists studying predation on early hominins have found bite marks on ancient hominin fossils, skulls punctured in patterns that match big cats. Not myths, actual physical evidence. Our ancestors were, quite literally, on the menu. Think about that for a second. For most of human evolutionary history, night wasn't cozy. It wasn't Netflix and a blanket. It was the single most dangerous part of every day, on repeat, for hundreds of thousands of years. And here's what makes this so important. Fear that keeps you alive doesn't need to be logical. It just needs to be fast. A human ancestor who heard a rustle in the grass at night and calmly thought, "Let me gather more information before reacting," didn't usually get to pass on their genes. The ones who flinched first and asked questions later, they lived. So darkness fear isn't really a fear of darkness. It's a fear of not knowing what's in the darkness. Our brains fill in the blank with worst-case scenarios, because for an enormous stretch of our history, the worst case was often correct. But here's the problem. Around 400,000 years ago, something changes the whole equation. Fire. At a site called Qesem Cave in Israel, archaeologists found repeated evidence of hearths, the same fire pit used over and over across generations. That's not an accident. That's a technology being deliberately maintained. Fire did something huge. It didn't just cook food or provide warmth, it pushed back the edge of the dark. It created a small circle of visibility in a world of none. And that circle became one of the first truly safe spaces our ancestors ever had. Here's the wild part, though. Fire didn't erase the fear of the dark. It just gave us a tool to manage it. Which means every campfire, every porch light, every phone flashlight you've ever used at 2 a.m. is doing the exact same job that hearth in Qesem Cave was doing 400,000 years ago. Same fear, same fix. just rebranded. So by the time we get to fully modern humans, somewhere around 100,000 to 300,000 years ago, this fear isn't just biological anymore, it starts becoming cultural too. Nearly every human society that anthropologists have studied has some version of "don't go out after dark" folklore. Spirits, monsters, things that only come out at night. Researchers who study oral traditions have pointed out that these stories often show up specifically in places without much natural nighttime light because the story does a job. It keeps kids close to camp after sundown, back when wandering off at night could genuinely get you killed by a predator. Basically, the boogeyman was a parenting hack before it was a horror movie trope. And it worked so well that it never really left. Go look at almost any culture's folklore, and you'll find something lurking in the night. Different names, same shape, same function. Now, here's where it gets personal. Psychologists have actually tested this fear directly, and the pattern holds up eerily well. Studies on anisitophobia, fear of the dark, show it's incredibly common in early childhood, and even in adults, more people report feeling anxious or hyper-alert in darkness than they'd probably like to admit. Here's the detail that gets me, though. Researchers have found that darkness doesn't just make us scared of specific things, it makes our brains generally more suspicious. In low light, people are measurably worse at telling the difference between a threatening face and a neutral one. Your brain, under uncertainty, defaults to assume danger. Not because you're being irrational, because that default kept your ancestors alive. So when you check under the bed as a kid, or feel a weird prickle walking to your car in an empty parking lot, that's not some personal quirk. That's several 100,000 years of predator pressure still quietly running in the background of your nervous system. So here's the full picture. It starts with small nocturnal mammals dodging predators after the dinosaurs died out. It becomes early hominins getting hunted by big cats, specifically after dark. It turns into fire at Qesem Cave, the first real weapon against the unknown. It spreads into global folklore, monsters standing in for real predators. And it ends up here, with you, in a dark room, heart rate spiking over nothing. Except it was never nothing. It was the smartest, fastest decision your brain could make with the information it had, built over hundreds of thousands of years of nights where hesitation got you killed. So next time the power goes out and your skin prickles walking down a dark hallway, that's not you being dramatic. That's an ancient survival system, still fully online, doing exactly what it was built to do. Kind of wild that something so old is still running the show every single time the lights go off. If you found this one interesting, there's a lot more of this weird ancient wiring still hiding inside your everyday habits. Might be worth sticking around to dig into the next one.